Glad to have you back on the show. Like I said earlier, that we still have other things for you this morning. And the topic we are going to be exploring right now is managing neurological conditions in children. That's our topic this morning, and we have guests with us that will be helping us to analyze and talk about some of those neurological conditions in children. What are the causes? How can they be prevented? And then the measure parents need to take so that their children will not fall victim of these conditions. We have as guest with us at the studio this morning, Precious N. Okachi. He's a certified medical neuroscientist, Duke University. He is also a member Royal College of Emergency Medicine UK and a member National Healthcare Service Provider Solutions USA. Precious is currently a final year student in medical rehabilitation in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Nnewi campus. Precious,
thank you so much.
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We also have Darlington Nonso Okoye, medical student in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Nnewi campus. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
This is why we are in the midst of medical doctors or the medical students. I hope you didn't come with any syringe because I don't want anybody.
Thank you so much.
All right, quickly, let's talk about this neurological condition in children. Now, I want to talk, I know we have a whole lot. We have cerebral palsy and so many of them. I may not really get all of them right now, but I want us to talk about how it even happens in the first place. Now, these are children, probably. They've not really done so many things in life that maybe warrant them having one disease or the other. Now, what actually are the causes of some of this neurological condition in children? Does it have anything to do with being hereditary and all that?
Okay, thank you so much. Basically, there are several causes of most of these neurological conditions, but I may be tempted to start with the risk factors, of which maybe when we see these things, we can be able to say that this mother may have children with some of these neurological conditions. First, one of the major risk factors that can result in most of these neurological conditions is maternal age. So the age of the mother of the child matters a lot most times. So if you check well by statistics, most of parents, mothers having children with neurological deficits, are somehow maybe women are maybe coming close to ages around 35 to 40. So late marriage, late pregnancy, most of these things predispose most mothers to having some of these issues. Then two, inappropriate antenatal care. So antenatal care, it's quite important. Most times, most women, most mothers don't take it quite important. Three, exposure to substances. So women during pregnancy may be taking a whole lot of drugs, a whole lot maybe smoking or drinking or taking some kind of food, snacks and things that may not be that quite good. So there are a lot of risk factors. When we see these things, we can say that this mother can have children with this. Then basically also, there are some causes that we may tend to be, should I say, preconditions that occur during birth. So circumstances surrounding the birth of a child also can predispose a child to having this neurological issue. Let's take, for instance, if a baby is being given birth and then the baby doesn't cry at birth, this is an underlying sign that this child, after some time, is already predisposed to having a neurological condition. It may have been that there is no much oxygen in the lungs or that the brain somehow doesn't have the adequate supply of oxygen. That's one. Then two, also maybe the handling during birth, possibly by midwives. So you see that during labor, some midwives are tempted to put the hand of the baby or to manhandle, do a whole lot of things. This can also predispose the child to having some of these issues. And if you also check by statistics, most children who are placed in maybe incubator after birth somehow also come down with some of these neurological conditions. So aside being genetic, aside coming from the environment, we can also have these as to be some of the causes of these neurological conditions.
Okay, now talking about being genetic, now for example, if a mother, it's a pregnant woman already is suffering from one of this neurological condition as a mother, not now is having sleepless nights, what do you call it? I know you have a terminology for that and other things. Constant headache, migraine, and all that. Will it in turn affect the child in her womb?
Okay.
Actually, thank you very much for your question. Actually, if the parent, maybe the mother or the father, has any of this genetic disorder, the child tends to inherit some part of the genes from both the mother and the father. So therefore, the child also stands a risk of having those neurological issues.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
At what stage can a child be diagnosed of neurological order? Is it while the child is still in the womb or immediately after birth? Because I've seen cases where a child was diagnosed of having one form of disorder, and then they now placed the mother on certain routine in order to see that the child is giving birth to. So can these things be corrected even while the diagnosis has been done?
Yes, thank you so much. For some of the conditions, it can be diagnosed possibly via ultrasound scanning during pregnancy. You can see them. Example is spinal bifida. For some of them, maybe others under the scan result, you can be able to see that this child is gradually having some kind of underdeveloped spinal cord. So you can get these ones as before birth. And possibly after birth also, there are some possible signs that a child can exhibit. So we call most of these developmental milestones. Let's take, for instance, a child after birth, maybe 2 to 3, 4 days after birth, cannot be able to move a particular hand. Indirectly, this is a sign that there is an issue, and most likely it's going to be a neurological condition. It must have been as a result of trauma. Okay, 2, or let's take, for instance, a child at 2 months. Isn't possible. The child is not yet enough to maybe hold his or her neck. It's also an underlying sign that this is a neurological condition. If a child at 6 months, if the child at 6 months cannot be able to sit properly without aid or assistance, is a sign that somehow there may be an underlying neuro condition. Or maybe at 9 months, if this child cannot be able to maybe holding something or one thing or the other to stand, with assistance, to stand at 9 months, is also a sign that there is an underlying neuro condition. And then maybe at 12, if a child cannot walk, so it's also...
You mean 12 months?
Yes.
Okay, because you said 12 hours.
Okay, yes. Yeah. So at 12 months, if a child can't be able to walk at 12, it may indicate that there is a possible underlying
So at that point,
condition.
if you notice all those things, all you need to go is to
reach
go
out
to
for
the
medical.
hospital,
Yes, ma'am.
and then they will check the child out. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I want us to talk about autism. Is it also part of neurological disorder?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there was a video I watched, I think over the weekend. I saw a little baby. She was all beautiful when she was growing up, very lovely and all that. And the mother was now saying that she didn't even notice, she didn't see any sign that the baby was autistic until she was the age of 2 or so.
3 years.
2, 3. So, in that particular case, I mean, if a child is autistic, can it be corrected if detected earlier? And then now, how can you detect that as a mother?
Okay, thank you so much. Most of these autistic disorders are dictated somehow late. Yeah, most times because they entail disorders as regarding social communications, language communications, and a lot of other things. Unlike other ones that are just movement, posture, that you can easily pick up. So around 2, 3, you just suddenly discover that this child is not communicating effectively, somehow is afraid of strangers or that kind of a thing. So, but if discovered still quite on time, maybe around 2, 3, there may be possible management therapies that can be involved. But most times it's more of management. Yeah, there may not be complete treatment of this neuro condition. So, but this patient can be managed basically to improve the quality of life. That's one thing we see most of these autistic patients, Down syndrome patients, and then that's it basically.
Autistic patients, according to science, I don't know if you prove me right or wrong, seem to have this innate sharp acumen.
Yes.
How is it possible? How is it that they are a little bit more intelligent than other children? I've seen movies and I've read about that. It's not as if I'm wishing for one, but then sometimes you begin to wonder, why are these people gifted in such a way? They have the ability to unravel things that an average child can't. Is it a disposition of maybe extra gene or what? I don't really understand.
Okay, basically, currently there has been a lot of research works on that as to get to know what actually is responsible for this, their sharp acumen. So many research works has predisposed this to be maybe as a result of, just like you said, an additional gene or somehow based on their genetic composition, basically. So some said it's God-given talent and grace as to maybe help them to fit in with some kind of deficit. So basically, there are a lot of research works ongoing on that, but most research works we have available are predisposing it to that. They already have some kind of extra genes and some kind of hereditary, should I say, advantages more than other children. That's basically.
Thank you so much. Darlington, let's come to you. Now we've made progress so far talking about some of these diseases, mentioning at least one or two. I know we can't talk about all of them right here on the show, but then I want us to talk about antenatal care, because just like he mentioned earlier, that when you don't go for proper antenatal as a pregnant woman, you could develop some of these things that will eventually affect the child when it's being given birth to, and probably what happens during labor and all that, how you're being managed by the midwife and all that, that they can contribute. Now, I want you to talk about antenatal care. I mean, pregnant women, when do you need to, start your antenatal as a pregnant woman? And then what are the things you need to do as a pregnant woman to make sure, I mean, at your end, that you covered everything and then leave the rest to God?
Okay, that's a very good question. Now, we're going to talk about antenatal care now, or we're going to talk about these neurological issues. I mentioned something about genetic factors. Like now, if the mom or the dad, let me say, has a gene for these things, the child tends to actually inherit it from them. So now when we go for antenatal care, these are the things we actually check out for or look for. We test it in the parents and everything. And if we actually discover that the parent has this gene for that, there are some care, or there are some drugs or injections we actually administer to the mom, so as to be able to actually reduce the risk factor of the child having it. And even if you come over to the birth process, we have already known now that this child is at a risk of this. Let's say, for example, now Erb's palsy. So now, when we're about delivering that baby now, there are some particular procedure we use in the hospital, which are not used anywhere else, to be able to actually prevent that thing happening. And even after the child is delivered, there are some things we actually do. For example, now, immediately after the child's delivery, there are some procedures we actually use in the hospital to actually confirm the immediate transport of oxygen to the brain, to prevent brain damage, which will further keep the child at a risk of having those neurological conditions. And then from time to time, some checkups are actually needed. So now those checkups actually helps to actually find out if there are other things that are actually lying in wait in that child, and if it's actually discovered earlier, immediate treatment will be started so as to prevent more damage. Because so one thing about neurological issues is that once is noticed and nothing is done about it, it will keep on getting worse and worse. That is why it's very good for the mom to go for proper antenatal care, even postnatal care. Yes. Thank you very much.
Postnatal is for her now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And then I wanted to even add up something to this. I think immunization and antenatal goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yes, that's as for the mom and as for the child. Yes. So I believe also proper immunization therapy can also help to mitigate most of these neurological conditions.
And some people, they might not really know about all this routine, because I know they even have a card
yes.
that once you come, they will tick that you've done this
polio vaccine,
and all that.
this, yeah.
But some of these people in the rural areas, rural communities, most times they're not aware of this. But I in Anambra State, I'm very glad that the state ministry is trying their best to see that they go to the hinterland, those hard to reach area to conduct immunization, which is free of cost. Now, you mentioned something earlier. You said when we were talking about the risk factor, women between the ages of 35 to 40, that the risk of giving birth to kids that might have one neurological condition or another. And then again, we talked about genetic factor too. Now, if as a parent you know that you have so maybe as the wife or the husband, are there anything you need to do before you even conceive, before you even get pregnant? I mean, are there drugs, are there any treatment you need to undertake so as to prevent this from happening?
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, there may be drugs or medications or possible some kind of therapies that can be administered, but most of these neurological conditions are congenital, which means that they may happen during development in the womb. Yes, so most of them are congenital, just like you mentioned, maternal age. Possibly maybe women around that kind, 35 getting to 40, may have their eggs getting weaker gradually over time, and this already has predisposed this mom to having a child.
Is there no medication that can boost the eggs to be more, will I say, active?
Yes, there is medication for that, but science may not be able to solve most of these problems. That's just the basic truth on that.
So, Darlington, now something came to mind right now. We talk about egg getting weaker, and I know that some women these days it's trending that some women they go and freeze their eggs and all that, and some people wouldn't want to be. Some might not really want to be impregnated by a man. They go to the sperm and get a sperm donor. The truth is that most time you don't even know the health condition of the person that you're taking that is donating the sperm, and then freezing your egg too in the hospital for a very long time. Some say 6 months, some 1 year, some 2 years, as the case may be. Could they be also fall in the risk factor that people that can actually conceive and at the end of the day we start seeing one story or the other?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, as I mentioned before, like if you actually freeze the egg is actually put in an inactive state, actually. But there are some things called metabolic processes that occur. Like now, if the metabolic process of the egg delays, you get, and for example now, it is not fertilized by a sperm. Yeah. Although it might seem successful or healthy, but that egg, so as far as the metabolic process has already been delayed, has already put that infant that will be conceived in a risk of having these neurological issues. Because of now, when the egg is freezed, there are some nutrients that won't be getting to the egg. Because of normally a healthy egg has a number of time it has to stay before it decomposes. So now, if that egg stays more than that period of time, there are some things that goes wrong inside of it. So therefore, even if it is fertilized, it will keep that child at a risk of having these neurological issues.
How come doctors are not kicking against it based on this you just said?
That is it. Like when you go to the hospital for that, they actually sit you down and tell you about all these risk factors. It should not be left for you as a person to agree if you want to carry on with it.
There are possible chances.
It's left for you to decide if you want to go ahead with that decision or not. Okay, we really don't have time, but I think this is a very interesting topic. We'll still call you back some other time so that we can explore more and talk about it, because so many parents, especially mothers, are ignorant of the fact that some of the things they are doing, some of their lifestyle could actually affect their children. Because you made mention of taking some substances. Just see some pregnant women, they smoke, they drink, they take hard drugs and all that. It could in turn affect
and the environment.
Child. Yes, and the environment too. But we have to go because we have the sports segment.
Okay,
we just want to say very big thank you to both of you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so
Precious
much.
and Okachi, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, ma.
And also Darlington Nonso Okoye, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Well, that's it for the show this Monday morning. My name is Chidinma Oranwa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Anambra from Chukwuka, saying thanks for watching.
energy at school? I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transformed every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days.
Milo!
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transformed every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days.
Milo!